All right, we're gonna go cut down a tree today, but before we do that, let's talk about my chainsaw and how to sharpen the chain. All right, this is an MS-180C by Stihl. I believe it's the smallest chainsaw that they make. I think the older versions of this was called the Mini Boss. I've had one of those too. They're awesome chainsaws. This is probably the most common homeowner chainsaw by Stihl. So I'm not, I'm not brand loyal to Stihl or anything. This is the only one I've ever really owned. My last Stihl worked really good. I know that Huskies work really well. You can buy other, even cheaper brands of chainsaws that work flawlessly. So I think this has got a 16-inch bar. It's got the quick adjust. There's no tools needed to tighten the chain at all, so that's really nice. But anyway, let's talk about how to sharpen these teeth real quick. That's a real common question that I see and that I get asked. I'm doing it right here on the back of my tailgate, because when you're out in the field or when you're ready to cut down a tree and you dull your chain or whatever, you typically don't do it in a shop. They make other types of chainsaw sharpening mechanisms, such as this very common, very easy to use file, and this one has a gauge on it too. So this has got a guide and a gauge, and if you can see on there, it has the marks right here. So this one is a 5/32 depth file, so that matches this chain perfectly. Now you can get other mechanisms, such as like a grinder type. It's just got a handle, it comes down. You got to have electricity for that, but you typically don't have electricity out in the field, so the easiest method is just to use one of these files. This is $10 off of Amazon. I think this is an Oregon brand. Yep, Oregon. Very common, very cheap, very cost-effective way to sharpen your chain. So let's talk real quick on how to do this. Okay, so there are numbers on the bar right here that will tell you specifications on the cutter teeth. The right chain tells you the bar length. I don't think that'll focus very well, so I can't get real close, but there's information on the bar that'll tell you what kind of chain you need. If you really want to take the easy route, just go to a dealer where you bought it. Go to a Stihl dealer. They usually have software there, and you can just type in the model, like here, MS-180C, and it'll tell you exactly what chain that you need. They'll typically have them on hand. Chains are only like $20, so they're relatively cheap. Chainsaw chains will dull pretty quick if you put them in the dirt or if you hit rocks with them. So they can dull pretty fast if you're getting low to the ground or stuff like that. But this is a 5/32 file chain, so the depth is 5/32. So that's exactly what this file is. It says it there, 5/32, and it also has a 30-degree sharpening angle on the teeth. So you have to match that perfectly with the chain. Your file needs to be exactly matching the chain specifications. You can know, it kind of takes some decoding, that this is a 5/32 file based on the numbers on the side of the link. So not all of them have a number, but this one does. You probably cannot see that on camera at all, but it says 4. There's a number 4. When you go to a file guide, there's a number 4 correlates to 4 millimeters, and metric conversion to American conversion is 5/32. 4 millimeters is also 5/32. So you kind of got to do some digging. I mean, it's kind of a pain. I wish they would just make it more clear, but that's just what you have to do. Anyway, if you get one of these files, you can use it with or without the guide. I like using this guide with it because it's very simple. So you find the cutter teeth. Here's a cutter tooth right here, and they oscillate in opposite directions. So then you go to the next one right here, and you go to the next one right there. So they go different directions to make the cut. Now the tooth right in front of it, this is a cutting tooth. This tooth right here doesn't do anything for actual cutting, but it's a depth gauge tooth. Cutter tooth, depth gauge tooth. What you'll find on these chains, that you can sharpen chains about maybe 5 times or so, maybe more than that if you're lucky. And these depth gauge teeth, if that is wore down, it will take too big of a bite. Each tooth will take too big of a bite, and that can be dangerous because it's cutting too much. Your performance probably won't be great. Your chain will bog down, your chainsaw will bog down. Sometimes on more powerful chains, people will actually file these down to get a bigger bite, but because this is a very small, relatively low powered chainsaw, if these teeth wear down, these depth gauge teeth, you just won't have very good performance. So I recommend if those wear down because you're grinding it in the dirt or you hit sand or rocks, then probably just replace your chain. 20 bucks, that's all it is. So for sharpening teeth, this one here is actually pointing in this direction, right? So you want to file in the direction that it's pointing, not opposite direction. So what you do is you place your file over the tooth. Place your file over the tooth. I'm going to go from a top view. You can see my mark. My angle mark is parallel with the chain. That's a 30-degree angle. This chain requires a 30-degree angle. That's why I have this one. So others will be 20 degrees, and so forth. So what you do is you put it on there, give it a little bit of pressure. You know, hold the chainsaw tight. And I'm doing this very gently, but you can just go across, and you'll hear it grind real nice. Now I usually give it, you know, about 5. Give it about 5 good strokes with the file. Now check it every once in a while. You can even see a little bit on, I don't know, maybe I'm not on camera, but there's some file grindings right at the edge of that tooth. I'm going to wipe it off with my finger. Now you can feel the tooth, it's very sharp. So that one's really, really good. So I kind of pre-sharpened this already, but that one's extra sharp now. So that's how you file it. So then when you get to the next one, I usually go all of them the one direction. Keep going, keep going. You can turn the chain, you know, set your bar lock. And then once you do all of them in one direction, switch and go the other direction. So you start going on each tooth the other direction, do about 5 times. But you have to go in the direction that it points. So if it points that way, file that way. So that's the proper way to do that. So the chainsaws that I mainly use for cutting trees is this MS-180C. Very small but super effective. Like, you don't need a real big chainsaw unless you're doing some super huge trees. But you know, I cut down trees like easily this size. I'll even take down a tree that size right there. You know, they're not real huge. They might be really tall, but as long as the trunks, the base of the trunk isn't massive, it doesn't have too like large of branches, I'll do it. As long as I don't have to climb the tree to cut branches off, then I'll take that job. And this chainsaw every time will do it for me. Just the number one thing is to make sure that chain is sharp, otherwise it just performs like dog. Another saw that I use is this limb saw. This is right from Harbor Freight. This is the other half of it. It's the Atlas brand. Super awesome chain, limb saw. Lasts a really long time. I've never had the thing die on me. It's got a ton of power. I don't know how long the bar of the chain is. The bar of this one is 10 inches. It's got plenty of power. Here's the oil port there. It's oiling, works great. Again, you got to sharpen these every so often too. So these are the 2 main pieces of equipment I use for tree jobs. Alright, so the goal here today is to get this tree down. It's a little overgrown. The main thing is it's overgrowing into her driveway, and she's got to get a big moving truck in here, and so the branches are going to get in the way of that. So she just wants the whole tree taken down. Thought about maybe cutting some branches, but she said, just heck with it, take the whole thing down. So over here it's going to be a little tricky. You can kind of see it on camera that it slopes down, and it's actually kind of steep over that direction. So we'll figure out a way to land it. We may cut some branches down just to give us a little bit of room. But use the tractor, use the grapple. That'll make easy work of it. We'll haul away the excess and dispose of it. So here we go. All right, I just talked to the homeowner to see which way I can land this tree. The safest way is going to be right here in the driveway. However, let me check this out. I mean, this tree is leaning pretty hard away from the driveway, so I may actually land it in the back. There is a tree in the way, so I have to land it straight this way. So probably have to use some wedges. I may actually trim some of these branches first and then take it down. A little unsafe because of that slope back there, but if I land it this way, I think I'll be okay. All right, I'm gonna use my limb saw here to try to get some of these down. Alright, the starting procedure on one of these Stihl chainsaws is really quite simple. At least this one, most of the homeowner style ones are kind of like this. It's got 4 settings right here. So what you want to do is, that's the start position, 1 notch down, but you want to choke it first. So you got to push in this right here. You can do it all with one hand and then pull in the trigger. It's kind of like a lock, but then do all of that in one sequence and push this all the way down. Now everything is locked and it's in the choke position. Make sure the bar is locked by pushing it all the way forward. So this is unlocked, you'll see it flap. Push it forward till it clicks. Now the bar is locked, so the chain won't spin when you start it. So you pull it over until it burps. There it ran for a couple seconds. Then take the switch, go up 1. That's half choke. Now it'll start running on its own, and you can let it run for a few seconds so that it can build up a little bit of a good running position, and then you can flip the switch up 1 more. So here we go. You can actually push the trigger like that. Push the trigger, it'll stop. And when you do that, it automatically kicks the engine position up to the normal idle. Now it's ready to go. So on these chainsaws, there's a line right here. Some people will call it like a felling line, but when you cut your saw, or when you cut into your tree, you cut it right here, you know, and you make sure that line on the bottom, so you can cut this direction, or you can flip the chain over and cut into it this direction. But wherever that line is facing, that's where the tree is going to fall, in theory. So you use that as a gauge. And you can, once it's in the tree, I'll show you that, you can back up and then look at it from this angle to make sure that line is right in line of sight of where you want the tree to go. So I try to match it up as best I can, make a cut, and then keep going. So I don't cut mine at the base of the tree. I'll typically cut it down lower afterwards, but you'll typically want to leave some if you're going to dig it out with an excavator or a skid steer or whatever, because then they can use what's remaining above the ground as leverage to push the stump and grab a hold of it and move it around. So I'll ask the homeowner what they want to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a cut into the tree about, I don't know, less than halfway, about 1/3 of the way in. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut a notch out of it. But then we're going to come on the back side, make a back cut, and we're going to leave about 10% wood in between. And that's going to be for hinging. So that's how you fell a tree. There's multiple different ways and methods, but This is probably the most common.
Okay.
Woo!
Wow, let there be light.
Let there be light, yeah, really. this will happen time to time. Your chain will fall off. Nice thing about these ones, they're super easy. It's got this little, there's no tools needed. You have to finesse it a little bit, but that easy. All right, we're gonna take another load out. I took one load already. Took quite a few of the branches out, but I just kind of cut them up just to save some space because I want to make this in 2 loads versus 3 trips to the dump site. So that it shaves about an hour of time off the clock if we just cut some of these up. So we got another load of brush here. We're going to donate that to the neighbor. He's going to take that. He burns wood in his wood stove, so he can have some of these smaller pieces to burn. So let's keep at it. Okay, we gotta sharpen this. Yeah, I ended up running this into the dirt a couple of times, so it makes sense that I would need to sharpen it. But anyway, this is all that it is. It's very simple. That one feels good. We're going the other direction. There, practically good as new. As long as this is sharp, let's go cut that stump lower. think the neighbor ought to be happy with that. Good pile of free burning wood. All right, there it is. Tree's gone. That went well. That was pretty straightforward. Probably took about 5 hours altogether. Got the tree down, all the branches cleaned up. So we got to take one more small load out to the dump and get rid of the branches. It's kind of far away, but over there's the pile for the neighbor. He's going to use that for heating. So job done. Couple chainsaws, a limb saw, a few rakes, John Deere tractor, and a dump trailer. All right, thanks for watching. Have a good one.